feel, bro? You feel good? There's so much more stuff. I know you're here. How you feel, bro? Get down. Don't get down. Look here. We're going to have a bomb down. 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 Let's think about bread. Okay.
You know, I love the house.
Thank you. Do it again. Do it again.
Well done. Oh, you turned my car. Hey, different count. They can do this at a time. Oh, brother. Boy, dressed wonderful. They totally knew how.
All right.
We already have people here to grab that for us.
I am so glad to see you here.
It's so wonderful all together again. It's been too long. Too long. It's so wonderful. You know, here's to us.
Cheers.
Wow. We're gonna have a wonderful
Cheers.
night.
I just wonder whose butt am I gonna kick on this card table?
Or tell them, partner. Just tell them how many we got. Nobody thinking about y'all. We slapping bums over here.
Yeah.
Some people like,
I was just playing. I really don't know how to play cards.
That's okay. That's okay. I got you. I got you.
You don't know how to play cards?
What you gonna do? Take my black card?
Oh. Fighting words.
Girl, you better try to get up from my mama's table.
Your mother loved me, girl.
She sure did. That's the reason why I put these pictures of you and mama in my photo album. It all started on Saturday mornings. I was 7 years old and responsible for buffing and polishing the table legs. Under my table, my mother handed me a rag full of the scent of pledge. You know, the old kind, the cream, not the new lemon scented spray. That's for you newfangled people. As I worked my way from the top all the way down to the bottom, I counted 11 individual pieces of wood in this big pineapple shape in between. Eventually, I lost track of time. You see, it was at this table where we learned life lessons, my siblings and my friends and I. At the table, you could plead your case and sometimes avoid a whooping. We had discussions about each other. We settled arguments there. We had discussions about money, about friends, about enemies, about frenemies, and about God, and yes, Lord have mercy, even about sex. Sometimes that table was like court. You come and sit down, plead your case, and you'd be begging for a more favorable verdict. It was a real-time situation, not like what we have today in honest debate. So you see, when I was a teenager, my mother decided she was going to quit work, be home, be more available. So even my friends, see, there goes some of my friends, even my friends had an opportunity then to have a good time at that table with us. Sometimes we'd arrive after school and my mother would have that big green Tupperware bowl full of popcorn and then red Kool-Aid. You all know red Kool-Aid?
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes sun tea in the sun tea pitcher. And the nice thing about being at the table with my mother was that there were no silly questions and that you were always welcome to ask anything. So occasionally she'd sit down at the table with us. Here's a picture of Mom at the table. And she'd kind of reminisce about different things and share with us. But I mean, one day I came in with a group of 15-year-olds. And we all sat down. My mother was already at the table. We sat down at the table, and one of them looked at her and said, "Mrs. D, will we still be able to have sex when we get old?"
What did he say?
She never missed a beat. She said, "As long as you are healthy and you have a willing partner, absolutely you will."
The willing part.
Well, there's that.
I swear to you, looking back, there were so many stories told at that table with siblings 15, 10, 8, and 5 years older than me. I don't know how my parents ever survived. So let me tell you this, late one night, my parents were sitting at the table. Here go another picture of the table, baby. And they were talking about my brother James. James was my favorite. He was my favorite because he always was willing to take me on an adventure. And we had some great times together. Only tonight, my parents talked in hushed tones. You know, hushed tones is what you tell your children, shh, hush. And so they had gotten a phone call from my brother James, collect. And you know, collect calls were expensive back then, and you didn't call collect unless something was absolutely positively wrong because you were running up the phone bill. Well, you see, James was in trouble. He was in big trouble. And he was scared, and my parents were scared as well. So they called a friend of ours from New Orleans, and James was in New Orleans, and God knows what he was doing there with that band. And the friend said he was going to find him, put him on a train, and send him home before he got himself killed. What? And you know, back then they would say killed. So to be quite honest with you, I don't know the whole story because I was only about 8 or 9 years old. But you see, my family was from New Orleans. And they always said that my grandmothers, as well as my mother, practiced voodoo. So you see there's a little voodoo going on there. So late that night after everyone had gone to bed, my mother was sitting at the table, doing what I thought was praying. Sounded different, but you know, you're a kid, mother sitting at the table, she's praying. But then she got up and she went into the backyard and she started digging in the dirt with a shovel. Now, you know, I just have to tell you this. My mother did not do dirt. We had no houseplants because they required dirt. She did no gardening because she didn't get dirty. So why she was outside digging in the dirt, I didn't know. But I got up, put on my flip-flops, and I just tiptoed out there to see what she was doing. So before she noticed that it was me or anybody, I saw her lay in clothes my brother James's clothes down in the soil
Why?
in the shape of a body. So yeah, I thought that was pretty strange. So she turned and she looked at me and she said, "Ruby Rebecca." And you know, when somebody says your whole name, you're in trouble, but she didn't scream it like usual. So it was soft. And she said, "Go back in the house. Don't ever mention this again and never ask about it." So, you know, I was scared. So I went on in my flip-flops in the house, got in the bed, but I was scared. I was scared that I would never see my brother James ever again. Here you go, picture of my brother James.
James? Look at James.
So several days later, I woke up to the smell. This is like a heavenly smell. A smell of my mother's pancakes, hot and full of vanilla. And so, of course, I hopped up, rushed into the dining room. And who was sitting at the table eating pancakes but my brother James?
What?
He was alive. I threw my arms around him and I was just so happy to see him. All my squealing and hollering and celebrating, I woke up the whole house. That morning, we were all together again, eating pancakes at the table. But I'll tell you what, years later, I was in Haiti, and I met with a voodoo priestess. She came right up to me. So, what I learned from her was that burying someone's clothes in the soil will bring them back to you. And you know what? I had living proof. So, time went on. I continued to polish underneath the table, the top of the table, and when your siblings grow up and go away, you become the only help in the house. And so we had many a meal at that table with family and friends, and lots of court-like sessions, because I continued to have reasons to have court. And when I married, and we were packing up the U-Haul, getting ready to move out, standing in my parents' garage, and I looked up in the rafters, and I saw that table hanging up there. And I said, "May I have the old table, please?" I must have sounded like a little girl begging for candy. And my papa said, "That old thing? Don't you want something new?" But my mother looked at me, she could tell. And she said, "Go ahead and take it. It's only collecting dust up there," the woman who did not like dirt. I was so happy because I was taking a piece of my childhood into adulthood. So here's a picture of the table. So the excitement of living that life and knowing that I had my table with me, today that table sits in my dining room. And many a friend and neighbor and my children sit at the same table that generations did before them. The table has been scratched, burned, refinished. The creaky, that's why I walked in here on a cane. The creaky joints have been tightened up. The chairs that my sons rock back and forth in have been reconnected, re-glued, tightened up. The chairs have been refinished, and I reupholstered the seat cushions myself.
Look at you.
60 plus years later, As I dust my rag, as I prepare my dust rag with the new lemon pledge, and I buff out the legs of the table, I tell you what, I'd give anything to be seated at the table with everybody alive and well again, eating my mother's pancakes. Thank you.
Oh, Ruby. I remember your mom's table. I remember the times around my own family table. And that story also brings to mind people that I've lost. You know that person in your family that everybody calls when somebody gets married, buried, or baptized? That's me. As a clergy person, when anybody, friend or foe, in your family dies, you get the call to officiate. Now, being clergy, I don't mind getting a call, but I gotta tell you a secret. I'd rather do a good old funeral than a wedding any day. I mean, it's just too much family drama. Who's gonna walk the bride down the aisle? The baby daddy? Or mama's new husband? And don't let the baby daddy want to bring his girlfriend. And don't let her want to sit with the family. It's just way, way too much. So anyway, this time, when I got that call, I was sitting at my desk, not really working, but annoyed at the interruption from not doing nothing. And the voice on the end of the phone said, Alice Ruth was gone. But let me stop right there. We never said her name like that. We always sang her name, really to get on her nerves. Aki Root, 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 Root. We always sang her name like that. Aki Root, Root. And Aki Root had died. And I think, wow, are we just all running out of time? I mean, I can still see us running up and down the street. I mean, she was my ace, boom, boom, shakalaka doom growing up. I mean, we did everything together. If one person got in trouble, the other person got it too, just for being in close proximity. This was before time out. We grew up on Rhodes Avenue in the most old school way. Had to be in when the street lights came on. Summer block parties with frappe. Basement parties with blue lights. Lip syncing our favorite Motown songs. Going from front porch to backyard with our little transistor radios tuned to WVON 1390, scared to empty the garbage because the Wahoo man was on the loose. Y'all know that was real. I remember growing up in a place of connection and safety. I mean, first, second, and third generations of the same families live just doors apart. I mean, it was our own Southside Black Mayberry. It was great. And you know, the years pass and you grow apart, but we had recently reconnected. She had called to tell me that this big hair boy we grew up with, Butch, that they were engaged. And I thought, she ain't even like him like that. But here we were, 60 years later. I mean, can you imagine the shock of getting a call and anticipating a wedding, this big celebration, then a call that she had cancer, and then she was gone within a year from planning a wedding to planning a memorial. It was stunning. So, the memorial was held at the Oak Lawn Hilton. And while I was, of course, sad, I gotta tell you, I was a little bit excited because I was gonna see some of the Rhodes Avenue again. I mean, people that I grew up with on the block, people that I hadn't seen in years. Now, I gotta tell you this about Alice. Alice was chocolate perfection. Face beat, hair laid, outfit on point, perfectly accessorized. I tell you that so you know I had to come correct now. I mean, these people ain't seen me in 45 years. So I wore this long black chiffon number with the rhinestone cross.
Oh, red.
Everybody had on touches of purple, her favorite color. It was lovely. When the service starts, the mood goes black church deep. As we sat there and listened and prayed. And you know the part when that soloist always gets up and starts singing down here somewhere and hits those high notes, and the energy just ripples across the room. Although we were in a hotel in that moment, we were on holy ground. The spirit was definitely in that room. I mean, people had arrived like I expected, but some of us were unrecognizable. You know, hair loss, weight gain, moving slow. But we were there to honor our friend. And then it happened. What happened? Well, we had a DJ. Yeah, we had. Y'all know Jamar, right? Yes, you do. You know Jamar. Okay, Donna, Alice's niece, her son Jamar, where Jamar was the DJ. And when we started to have lunch, he set such a nice tone. And people started to relax and mingle and reminisce. But then it happened.
What?
I think it happened when he played Keep Your Head to the Sky. That's when the energy shifted. But when he put on Gerald Levert, didn't we? Somebody in the other corner of the room said, "That's my jam." And before we know it, people started stepping. People started stepping. Even me with my black dress on, my long cross swinger. I mean, Jamar, he played all our jams. We slipped into darkness. We wondered what's become of the brokenhearted, who has love that's now departed. We sang at our tables in full voice, even a low harmony. We went from crying to dancing. The memorial service had turned into a party, but when he played James Brown, get on up. Oh yeah. People on canes got on up. People on walkers swayed back and forth. We did the bump. It was a true church, black cultural theological moment in its highest form. Okay, some people thought we were doing too much. I'm sure some people left quietly, thinking we was being a little too worldly and a little too ghetto. But we didn't care. I certainly didn't care. Because in that moment, we were back on the block, all together on Road Street, laughing, talking, singing, and showing each other our dance move. And I thought, what a way to be remembered. Acting root, 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 root.
Sounds like a party, girl.
But y'all, can you promise me one thing?
Yeah.
Not to let death be the only thing that can call us all together again.
Oh, yes.
You know, Michelle, my stories and I have been talking about that for years. And recently we finally did something about it. Group trips exhaust me. Reunions, way too much work. And I do not like photo shoots. And I'm going to tell you about a time I did all three at the same time. 2 years ago, my sorors and I decided to take a trip. We were going to celebrate our Deltaversary. And I'm not going to tell you how long ago it was I pledged Delta, but I'll give you a hint. There are photographs of us, and we're wearing L'Oreal lipstick. It's fuchsia. Our hair is flipped, and our hair is crimped, and we are wearing shoulder pads. Lots of shoulder pads. There were 12 of us, and we were called the SSMIA, Missing in Action. We earned that title. There were 6 of us who went on the trip. We had never been on a trip together, ever. We are very different people. We always have been. And so when we get together, it can be magical, it can be creative, but it can also be full of tension and conflict. And no matter what, whenever I'm with these women, I feel safe. Because we have an ease that only comes from seeing each other at your worst. And so this was a trip of old friends, and you know how this goes. Somebody says, you know, do you remember when? And somebody else says, yeah, didn't you used to? And somebody says, you know, whatever happened to? And before you know it, you're finishing up those sentences. And you're jumping in and out of the narrative. And you're laughing and you're joking and you're crying. And before you know it, time has flown by. We talked about everything. We talked about politics and we talked about pop culture. And we talked about what is it like to be a Black woman in a world that does not love you. And we talked about our parents and our children and being in this weird sandwich generation and how challenging parenting and caregiving really is. We talked about our health. Everybody had been sick at least a few times. And we were all at different phases of our healing. And yeah, we talked about men, but not a lot. We ate really, really good. And we danced a lot. We went on a tour of Paramount Studios. Now that one was planned. And we took a lot of other mini tours because we kept getting lost. At night, with edibles and wine, we started to talk about who we are now, who we really are. And we reflected on who we thought we were going to be. And we thought about what we thought life was going to be. And we lingered in the absurdity of adulthood. In the morning, the great debate was, we're going to have mimosas or we're going to have coffee. I was solidly in the mimosa camp. We ended up doing both because you really don't have to choose. So you don't choose. We laid by the pool and in our softness and our scars and our stretchness. And some of us were topless.
All right now.
Y'all a mess.
Be free.
All of us were unapologetic. And then came the day of the photo shoot. The dreaded photo shoot. Now, we had planned this photo shoot the same way we had done everything else in our chapter meetings when we were talking about service projects and balls and step shows and who the next line was going to be. There was always an intensity. We used to have 3-hour-long minimum chapter meetings.
That's too long.
Way too long. Drove me crazy. And inevitably there was a moment where I had to try to escape it so my mind would go somewhere else just so I could survive it. It was overwhelming. And I really thought we had gotten past this point. But we had our age-old debate. Would we wear red with white accents? Or would we wear white with red accents? And I know what some of you all are thinking. Yes, there is a difference. We get to the pier, Santa Monica Pier, and my girlfriend's daughter, Michelle, shows up. She's got her brand new camera. She's got her film school vision and a 22-year-old energy screaming, "Ladies, this is gonna be fun!"
Not.
Some of my stores hit it. They are fashion model ready. They know their angles. They know their poses, and they're having a ball. The rest of us are kind of like, where do I put my hands? And is this the good side, or is this good side? And is there a pose other than this one? Now, for some reason, and I know this is going to be shocking to you, the tourists on the pier did not understand the significance of this shot. So they kept walking in and out of the frame. Now we got to go down to the beach. So we're on the beach. She moves us here. Yeah, no, that light's not right. So she moves us over to another corner of the beach. And we are trudging back and forth and back and forth. And it's getting hot. And the sand is all over the place. And I'm sweating. And so I'm getting that same feeling I used to have in chapter meeting. So I got to find a distraction. I look over here, and there's a family celebrating a little girl's birthday. And she's surrounded by love, and she's smiling wide. Then I look over to the shore, and there's a couple, and they're fighting, and they're sad. And out of the corner of my eye, I see a woman, and she's sitting on the beach. She's got her umbrella, she's got her book, she's patting her dog. In the midst of all this chaos and confusion, she is at peace. I want to be her.
Don't be all.
And out of the corner of my ear, I hear, "All right, ladies, let's go over here because the light's going to be great. I know it. I can feel it." Start trudging in. Somebody says, "Ooh, I don't know how much more I can do this. My feet are killing me." Somebody else says, "Girl, my feet are fine, but my knees are on fire." Somebody else is like, "My back." I don't know what we were thinking. We are way too old for this photo shoot. We should have stretched before we started this. And we all started laughing. All together, probably for the first time that day. And I hear Michelle scream, "That's it! Stay right there! That's the shot!" We go home, we're looking at the photographs, and I gotta be honest, I'm a little worried. Because I'm thinking, I actually did do this pose. Or I'm looking kind of stiff and awkward, but I was fun. Photographs are fun. My favorite, though, are the ones that she took in between the poses. The ones where we're not actually looking at the camera, we're looking at each other, we're not really in formation, it's messy and alive, and it just feels more like us. I get on the plane and I am proud because not only have I done this group trip, I had a good time. And I'm wondering, what is it about reunions that make me so uncomfortable? And I've decided that they feel like command performances for somebody I am no longer, for people and with people I don't really know anymore. And it feels like this weird attempt to recapture the past. This trip taught me something else about reunions. So I think maybe what reunions are is less about recapturing the past and more about finding time to be together one more time. Another chapter, another opportunity, another moment to show up for one another before it's too late. And now, because I have photographs, anytime and any place I feel like it, we are together again. I pick up my phone, I start to scroll, and there we are, together again. And again. And again. Thank you for listening.
Relax, you guys. It's just a little cold out, and so it affects the like.
Lost you. We don't know.
You know,
We gotta get out of here.
Me with the flashlight. Let's go in the back.
All right,
and we'll
I'll get a
check the
flashlight.
light.
We're out.
We're all going. We've seen the movies.
I saw Get Out, I believe.
I have a secret. I just recently realized that I am a cave woman. I mean, I come from a long line of indigenous women who built the fires, who kept the babies warm, who made the medicine and prepared the meals, who kept the predators away. I realized that I'm a descendant of the African ancestors who gathered the village around the flame so we would know our elders, so we would know about our ancestors, so we would know who we are, so we would never forget. I've been thinking about this a lot because I've been thinking about my own village of mamas. You see, there are 5 of us. Our kids were classmates when they were little, and we started spending together time socially. And it's been probably about 15 years that we get together once a month or every other month, never longer than quarterly. And we share our own secrets. We share our own stories. We talk about our lives. We talk about what's hard. And we laugh. We enjoy each other. We take care of each other. I remember when Donna was being released from her first marriage, and I didn't know how much paper and paperwork comes to dissolve a legal marriage. So we decided that we should do something to support her and welcome in this new chapter in her life. So we gathered in my backyard and we had a bonfire. You know, like the end of Waiting to Exhale, the movie, not the book. Where they're dancing around the fire and there are fireworks going off and it's the new year. Well, it wasn't quite like that. Like, we didn't have fireworks. But we did have music and we did have a little dancing and we had wine and piece by piece of paper, ream by ream of paper, we waited until everything was gone. And we breathed with her. During the pandemic, we huddled around our computer screens and tried to pass the time, and then every once in a while someone would flip on their karaoke machine and we would sing at the top of our lungs, and I'm sure we were a little pitchy, and I'm sure our families didn't appreciate it, but it made the time go a little bit easier, a little bit funnier. When it was safe to go back outside, we met in Amy's front yard at her fire pit, and we gathered under blankets and we shared a meal. And we talked and laughed as if no time had passed at all. Recently, I read an article about a woman whose husband was very sick. I think he had a significant stroke, and he was in the hospital, and she knew that in her faith tradition, in her synagogue, they would start a meal train where they would send meals, so that'd be one less thing she would have to worry about. And she knew she needed their support, and she knew she needed their help. She wasn't sure if she needed all the meals. Eventually, she realized what she needed was one person to pick up a kid, another person to run an errand, and somebody to wait at the house for a delivery person, and somebody to help when a repair needed to happen, so she could get to the hospital when she wanted to, when she needed to. This spring, I was flying down the highway way over the legal limit. I was trying to get to the airport to pick up my kid, and nothing was going well. The traffic was horrible. Of course I was running late. I needed to squeeze in an errand in between, and my phone rang. It was one of the moms. Stephanie's house had been in a serious fire. And fortunately, all the people were safe, all the pets were safe, but her family was going to be displaced for quite a few months. And we wondered what to do. We agreed we would start having Sunday dinner. And at Sunday dinner, she could vent about what was going right or what was delayed, or she could also give us assignments, like, because there's some way we could help. We could also perhaps provide a resource, or maybe just a meal and laughter. It worked. We had a good time. We agreed that we liked it so much that we would try and keep it going. And I confessed that Sunday dinner was a part of my family's tradition, and I had always wanted this with them, with my chosen family. So as we move into this season of darkness, and the calendar brings us to the longest night of the year, the winter solstice, I'm thinking about my own faith tradition. See, in our faith tradition, we walk into the church before sunset on Christmas Eve, and we have service. And at the end of service, all the lights are turned out, and everyone has their own individual candle. I realized when I was 6, maybe 7, when I was first allowed to hold my candle on my own, that's when I was initiated as a keeper of the flame. My mother was on my right, and she helped me light my candle. I remember feeling nervous, and carefully I moved to the left and helped Miss Mary light her candle. And I remember looking up at the vast darkness at the roof at the sanctuary of the church and realizing that my one little candle was not going to penetrate all this darkness. My mother's candle and my candle and Miss Mary's candle would not penetrate the darkness either. But row by row and pew by pew, as our candles were lit, the ceiling was aglow with our collective light, with our silent prayers for peace. And we prayed for peace that night. And we prayed for peace that season. And we prayed for peace in the new year. Because that's what we, the keeper of the flame, do. Thank you.
Sorry about that, the lights. I got them now.
Oh, good. We were wondering.
You know, it's just the cold weather, and sometimes it affects it, but All good. And the kiddos are asleep, so no more tuition focus. All good. Ooh, you know what that candle reminds me of? It's someone's birthday.
Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday.
Friday night, December 29, 1967, at exactly 9:40 p.m., a beautiful baby girl with irises so big they filled her almond-shaped eyes was brought into the school. If you haven't guessed it yet, that baby girl is me. I know. I don't look a day past 40, but that's not the point of this story. See, my mama, she was an old school mama. You know, the type that are super private and don't share absolutely anything and are like a complete mystery. Growing up, I would always ask her all the time to tell me stories about her upbringing in the country in Puerto Rico. And her answer was always like, I don't like to share sad stories. And she would start crying. So I stopped asking, because if there was one thing I did not like, was seeing my mama cry. It made me wonder if my birth story was a sad story. See, all I knew growing up was that I was born at Association House of Chicago, right here in Humboldt Park. If y'all didn't know, that was Walter Memorial Hospital back in the day. Right? That's all I knew. But I do remember certain birthdays after that. Like, I remember my third birthday. I remember it because I had this big birthday cake. And it was made with buttercream and intricate designs, and it was like a merry-go-round. And it had sprinkles. It had a red and white canopy. In fact, if you go down on North Avenue to Roser's Bakery,
Yeah.
there's a replica of this cake tucked away in a corner. It might be, but it's a classic. It's a classic. I also remember when I was 4. I remember my mother being pregnant. And I mean like really pregnant. I also remember the day that she went into labor. My dad had gone to work already, and it was the morning time, and she called him, and he mustn't have been too far, or working too far, because it feels like he came really fast. And I remember being whisked away, totally whisked away so fast, and dropped off at my aunt's house. And I was so confused of what was really happening. Because as fate would have it, my sibling decided to have the audacity and appear 5 years later, exactly on December 29th, 1972. Can you believe that?
No.
The audacity of him trying to upstage me on my 5th birthday. Like, how dare he? I really don't remember much after that, but I do remember the day that he was brought home. And that was the first time that I realized that he was a boy. A boy. Like, if there was going to be a baby that was going to try to upstage me, guess what? It could have been a girl. But no, he had to be a boy. I don't remember much about him growing up his first year, but I do remember my 6th and first birthday of his. And some parents probably think like, oh my God, now there's 2 of them that we have to celebrate. But in our house, it was totally different because just as much as my parents love to celebrate Christmas, they love to celebrate our birthdays. Year after year, there was always a Christmas and a birthday gift. We were never, ever cheated. In fact, in the times that we were together, there was a phone call that would always happen a few weeks before our birthday. And it went something like this. It's your mother! What are you doing for your birthday? Me and my brother always knew that that was code for you're coming here to this house and we're cutting a cake together. And there was no way that we could tell her no, because if not, we knew we would be in trouble. So we did that year after year, every single time she wanted to. Years later, in 2015, I decided to move away from home. I had not been away for a really long time. And my mother, before I left, gave me a going away card. And in this card, there was a message, beautiful message, but it also sounded a little strange. Like, she was never going to see me ever again.
What did it say?
It sounded kind of like it was the last time I would be able to see her.
Oh.
So I was really, really confused. You know, life has a strange way of doing things. And a few months passed, and it was Christmas time. And I remember I FaceTimed her. And she was so excited because all of the grandchildren, I'm the one that has the most, by the way, were home. All of her grandchildren. And if there was another thing that made my mom happy, was to have all of her grandchildren at home celebrating. She was so happy that day. She was excited. As fate would have it, the next day, my mother ended up in the hospital, unfortunately. It's the day that we found out that my mother had stage 4 cancer. We were devastated. And, you know, you can imagine, I'm far away. I was trying to figure out, should I move back? Should I stay? What should I do? And I was just really worried about my mom, about what I needed to do to make sure that she was going to have her treatment, what we needed to do, and all of those things. And her worry was that she was in the hospital and she wouldn't be able to call me on my birthday. So I would tell her, I told her a couple days before my birthday, I'm like, Ma, can you stop worrying about that stuff? Like, I'll call you. And I did just that. I called her on my birthday. Hello, Mommy. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. 4 weeks later, my mother passed away. It was a really devastating time for us. Super devastating. And for us, a few years later, you know, people started sharing stories about when their, you know, loved ones had passed. That's when some of my aunts and some of my cousins, and my mom's cousins started sharing stories about my mom's upbringing and some of her stories that I didn't know about. That's when I found out that my mother had miscarried 2 babies before me and 1 before my brother.
Oh.
which made us rainbow babies. So now we understood why we were so special. I also found out that my parents were super happy when I was born. So that assumption that my birth story was a sad story, I was totally off. It wasn't a sad story. You know what else I found out?
What?
If you count backwards from December 29th, it is February 14th. Love, baby. That's how she made that happen. You know, to some this might be a sad story, but I like to focus on the good memories, on Christmas time, and on our birthday. And I'd like to believe that the 3 babies that are our siblings that became angels, that they are together again with their mother, singing and dancing. Thank you.
So beautiful. I love the thought of all of them being together. It feels, I don't know the word for it, so magical. Magical, yes, that is it. Magical. That is the word I would use to describe that time between December 24th and December 31st when I was a child. That week was so special in our family, particularly on December 31st because it was my grandmother's birthday. And it was Granny's personal national holiday. And what it meant was that my mother, her 5 sisters, and her brother would all gather together with all of their children and sometimes other extended family to celebrate Granny with her favorite, made from scratch, super moist, delicious German chocolate cake. If you were late, you could not get a slice. You could do whatever you wanted to do on New Year's Eve afterwards, but you better be there for Granny's celebration. And then the week would start off with December 24th, Christmas Eve. It was the best. We would stay up and wrap all these gifts. And I was a little sneaky because I would peel back just a little bit so I could see if maybe the next day I was going to get that thing I really, really, really wanted. And on Christmas Day, we'd go to Auntie Rosie's house. Auntie Rosie's house was known as the Dewdrop Inn because that's what people did. They dropped in all week long, hoping to get a taste of my grandmother's yeast rolls, Auntie Grace's collard greens, Auntie Renee's lasagna, the sweet potato pie, and that thing that the kids didn't quite know what it was, called it the butternut six cake. Better than sex. Better than sex cake. We didn't know why they called it that. We had no clue until we got a little older. But anyway. It was just an amazing time. My aunt's house, I lived in an apartment building. My aunt lived in this house that had rooms that seemed to have rooms that seemed to have rooms. We would get 20 to 40 people on Christmas Day with the extended family. She had this white flock tree with sapphire blue bulbs on it. I had never seen anything like that. And every year, year after year, that tree had to be put up for Christmas. We would have any wayward soul. It would be in-laws, ex-husbands, ex-wives, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, just everybody coming together to share a meal, adults with hours and hours of storytelling, a lot of laughing, and sometimes some pina coladas. And the kids just running through the house playing with the new toys that we just got that we were probably going to break anyway, but we had a blast. Well, this one year, my Auntie Rosie, who was a teacher, by the way, and not just any teacher, a reading specialist. She could turn anything into a lesson. She was that teacher that everybody loved. She was the teacher that kids would return years later and introduce her to their children. She would tutor kids on the weekends. She would tutor kids after school. She would always be passed out during the week because she just put so much energy into it. Well, she brought that same energy into planning the holidays for us. So this one year, she decided that we were going to do something different. Kwanzaa. But we got to do both Christmas and Kwanzaa. So I was like, yeah, I'm down. As she was wont to do, she turned this also into a lesson. We learned about the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. We learned the meaning of every single day. We learned the proper greeting. We learned the proper ceremony. We poured libation for our ancestors and invited them into the space. We had to each take a turn reading. And when we finished the ceremony, we closed it out with the traditional harambes. It was 7 of them. It was something like grabbing the air and punching. Harambe, harambe, harambe! And then it was time to eat again. And if the food had run out, somebody had to go buy some fried chicken. So it was also decided this year that in honor of Kwanzaa, we would celebrate the 6th day, the principle of which was kuumba, by having a family talent show. But before we could do that, you had to practice the greeting. So my aunts would get on the party line. Y'all remember the party lines? And they would each add another person and add another person onto the call. And they would start off the conversation with the greeting of the day. It went a little something like this. Habarigani girl. Umoja habarigani girl. They were so proud of themselves for celebrating the culture. So, creativity, kuumba, the family talent show arrives. Now, I sang in many choirs. I was terrified of singing in front of my family. Y'all know family can really, as much as you love them, they can tell you all the stuff you don't want to hear too. And so I was terrified, so I chose not to sing. I chose a dramatic reading. Maya Angelou's Phenomenal Woman. Because I was a woman, right? Phenomenally. It was a dud. It was like, met with polite hand claps. Oh, baby, that's so nice. Yes, very patronizing. That thing was not what they wanted to see. What they wanted to see was some real performance. So there were skits. There's my little cousin Jonathan, who at the time was about 8 years old. He was at that awkward stage where they have adult teeth, but the baby face doesn't quite fit the teeth, and so it's really kind of awkward. He also was addicted to this one song. I cannot remember the name of it, and I'm grateful for that. The song played for 3 minutes and 30 seconds, and he did the same dance move the whole time. It went a little something like this. We didn't know if he was digging his potatoes to jump into double dutch or pushing a wheelbarrow. He became known as Johnny One Note after that. And then came my cousin Miko and her son Jamal. Jamal's about 6, a little tiny thing. He had on blue jeans, a little white t-shirt. Miko comes out in a house robe and big pink curlers and slippers. And we are thinking, what is going on here? And all of a sudden we hear, hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. And she is sweeping her son away. And he is going, oh woman, don't you be so mean. It was the cutest little thing we ever did see. But there was somebody missing. We were in her house, summoned at her insistence. And Auntie Rosie was nowhere to be found. Now listen, we shouldn't have been too freaked out that she was late for something because she was known for being late. She was also our family baker. She would make the wedding cakes. She would miss the weddings because she had not finished the cake yet. She was trying to get to the reception on time, and so she never got to see anybody actually get there. So we're sitting there, we're in the family room. Now, the family room was attached to the dining room, and it also had this hallway with a little swinging door that led to the other areas of the house. That was the stage, by the way. We were spilled out on chairs and couches and laid out on the floor, just crammed into this room. and we're waiting for the next act. And two of my cousins appear in some kind of getup with some wigs. And then we hear the slow strains of Proud Mary by Tina Turner. Ike and Tina Turner. And it turns out my cousins were the Ikeans. And so the song starts real slow. The long version. We're gonna do it for you nice and easy. Not nice and rough. And all of a sudden, through the swinging door appears Auntie Rosie in a getup with fringe all around and spaghetti straps, and she starts to move it. Oh, she's going back and forth. Y'all know it. Woo! Indeed. We fall all over each other. We are laughing till we cry, literally tears streaming down our faces. Could not stop laughing. It is one of my fondest memories of my childhood. It has been way more than 30 years since that night. And a lot has changed. A lot of people who were in that room are now ancestors. And when we gather before libation, we actually speak their names. Johnny One Note, he's a grown man. He's got a family of his own. Miko and Jamal, well, they since moved away. Kind of breaks my heart a little bit. Jamal actually doesn't remember the skit. I mean, he barely has any recollection. They moved away. They've added a husband and a little sister to their family. And Auntie Rosie, she's 82 years old. And she still lives at the Dewdrop Inn. And we still do. We still gather there for big family reunions. Not Christmas, yes, but it's not like it used to be, right? Because a lot of people are gone. Of the 7 siblings, only 3 remain. But when we do gather, all of that love still echoes through that family room. All of that laughter, all that joy still brings us together. And every now and then, we talk about that magical night when Tina paid us a visit, honey. And we laughed, and we loved, and we hoped, and we were just together. And I look forward to being together with them again.
It seemed like Tina must have left you some of her moves. I didn't know you could dance like that, girl.
Honey, let me tell you something. I had some moves back in the day.
That was
Who's going out?
amazing.
Don't be lighting up no buzz.
You know what, ladies? This has been amazing. I am so grateful that you guys came over to have this girls' night. It means so much to me. And hearing your stories, so powerful. I really But you know what? I do need to get my beauty rest so I can look.
Brad.
Where are you going?
Where you go? She's trying to slip in the dark.
She might be telling the truth. She could be prepping for the holidays.
Yeah.
Because, you know, what is it about black folk that we just can't have a holiday? Like, we got to celebrate stuff way past the time allotted by society.
It take that long.
We don't have birthdays. We got birth months.
Yes, I do.
Christmas starts the Saturday after Thanksgiving, because if your family is anything like mine, Turkey Day and Black Friday are just the same.
which is not to be confused with the time between the day after Halloween and the third Thursday in every November. That's a whirlwind of conference calls to figure out who gonna bake the macaroni and cheese, what time is dinner, only for it to start 2 hours late. And now the week leading up to the holidays, that's prep time. You gather your elders, you throw on Donnie and Aretha, you clean the house, you prep the food, and then finally the day is here, where you rip off your apron and you throw on your referee uniform for them arguments that's gonna pop up because somebody did cut somebody in spades.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, and do not get me started on my uncle when he get drunk and he grab that broom and he break out into a rendition of Merry Christmas to all of you. Surrounded by scores of equally drunk cousins saying, you better go on up. Now for me, the holidays were always my favorite. Because it didn't matter what arguments happened throughout the year, every single holiday we were all together. And I felt whole. Until I didn't. And I remember it like it was yesterday. It was the week after Christmas, and I was crying because my dad had once again whooped me for something that I didn't do. And she said, well, he treats you like that because he ain't your real daddy, and that ain't fair to y'all. Ooh, child, she said that so calmly, so casually, not realizing that she had just shattered my 11-year-old world. Because you see, I didn't have a whole bunch growing up, but I did have a mom, and who I thought was my dad when he wasn't in jail, and the holidays. The holidays. After that announcement, everything shifted. Suddenly, those warm Christmases at Grandma's house didn't feel so warm. The hugs felt fake. And the food, okay, real granny or not, like she could throw down in the kitchen. Always good. But seriously, after I learned the truth, everything was different. I mean, eventually the person who I thought was my dad went away for a very long time. And although we would still gather at Grandma's house and I would still run around with my cousins and sing along with the Temptations, it just felt different. And the very same settings that used to make me feel so whole now left a hole. One filled with a question mark. And so naturally, I did what any overachieving, emotionally traumatized Black woman would do.
What's that?
I became the ultimate holiday host. I mean, everybody and their grandmama, you can find them at my house on the holidays. Cousins, uncles, baby daddies, them coworkers that you really can't stand but you want to play politics with, they was all at my house. Every single holiday curated for maximum togetherness. I mean, decor so good, Auntie Mariah would walk in and go, it's time. Playing cards on deck. Food so good, make you want to slap your mama, and a playlist filled with the spirit of my ancestors watching mommy kissing Santa Claus. My home has become a flood of a new generation of cousins. Now I get to get a baby's pot lick and argue that it builds character. Spades games still get drowned out by football arguments. People who didn't contribute nothing to the meal still feel they caught up with Tupperware. And now me and my siblings get to force our kids in a circle and be like, show them that little dance you do, baby. And for a moment, I'm frozen in time and I feel better. But the thing about Black holidays is that after it happens, that's it. Bellies and containers get filled, people get drunk, and then they leave. And when I am all alone, scrubbing another strange stain, trying to figure out how the hell they get hot sauce on the ceiling? That weight on my shoulder returns. And it's not the spirit of my ancestors saying, good job. It's the shadow of a man that I've never known. And it's not like I haven't tried to put a face to the shadow, right? For Christmas 3 years ago, I got myself Ancestry.com, hoping it was going to lead me to my daddy. Unfortunately, all I learned is that I'm 30% white woman, which sent my Black Power ancestors into a spiral and now forces me to include green bean casserole on the menu to make my ancestors proud.
That's what I said.
Do white people even got ancestors? Well, anyway, when I didn't get the answers that I was looking for, I turned right back to celebrations. This time, expanding it to every third Sunday, constantly filling my house with family to drown out the questions in my mind. I have been desperately chasing a version of together that just no longer exists. Because it's not the food or the location or even the decorations that makes us all together. It's the compilation of our spirits intertwining in a dance built on love. But mine was built on lies. And a part of me is missing, and I am never going to get that back. And you know, I've been thinking a lot about how we show up in certain spaces, the care we take into the carefully curated menus and the matching pajamas and the perfect photos. Each of us trying to prove that we are together, whole. And as I look back over those images, I realize that all of us are broken. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that's what makes us together. My broken pieces clinging to your broken pieces and creating something magical. My broken piece just happens to have a voice, a name, a face that I will never get to see me walk down the aisle. And I used to think that if I were perfect, I could fix it, right? That if I didn't acknowledge that the whole existed, that somehow it would go away. But it's still there. So this year, I'm doing things a little different. This year, I am giving space to the empty feelings and the thoughts and the void because it's part of my story. And maybe being all together doesn't mean that we're perfect. Maybe it just means that we show up anyway.
Yeah.
With our wholeness and our holes. And so I am taking solace in the fact that as a new generation of children and grandparents and aunts gather around my table, that they too can feel the spirit of our ancestors pushing us to do better. And I am so grateful for the fact that even though I'm broken and even though I'm not perfect, my family is still showing up. Still loving, still laughing, still all together. Thank you.
Let's hear it for Soul Collective! Thank you for coming out tonight. 6 years ago, I was telling stories on stage, and I was in other people's shows, and nothing just felt quite right. I didn't have storytellers on stage that looked like me. I didn't feel like I was in front of audiences that loved me back. So I kind of felt like giving up. And I met two other women, Cara and Dee Dee, who are not with us today, who also told stories, and I invited them over to my kitchen table, and we really sat for a year and dreamed about what was possible. And through that, we launched Soul Collective 5 years ago, and we have grown, and we have changed, and we've evolved. And we've been able to do that through leadership that are all volunteers and individual donors through our GoFundMe site. And now we have some institutional donors with Field Foundation and the Owl Pick Jr. Fund. And we have new partners at Collaboration Theater. So thank you for your support. Please be moved to support us again and again and again. Follow us on social media. We average 2 shows a year, so our next show will be in spring. So bring more people, and we will see you then. Again, thank you. Let's go to Joel.
I'd like to thank you all for coming to All Together Again by Soul Collective. Give it up. Let's give it up for Kila Moore, Ruby Alton Hicks, Michelle Hughes, Terry A. Johnson, Shelly A. Davis, Wilda Gonzalez, Karen Dorrington Reeves, and Ayana Clark.